Two people, the same bridge, different times. 10 years ago, a man lost his wife. Here, on this bridge. Tonight, a woman lost everything. Here, on the same bridge. The man now lives beneath it. The woman stands on top of it. And tonight, there's a second chance. But this time, everything will be different. But before we dive into this story, hit that like button and subscribe. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and how old are you? The wind was cold, sharp, the kind that cut through clothes and skin and settled somewhere deep in the bones. Elizabeth Hart stood at the edge of the bridge, her hands gripping the metal railing so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Below her, the river moved in darkness. She couldn't see the water, but she could hear it. A low, constant rush that sounded like 1,000 whispered voices all saying the same thing. Let go. She was 38 years old, a successful lawyer, or at least she had been. 3 months ago, her husband died. A heart attack. No warning. He'd been making coffee one morning, and then he was on the floor, and then he was gone. 2 months ago, she lost the biggest case of her career. A case she'd spent 5 years building. She'd made one small error in evidence documentation. The defense tore it apart. Her client lost everything, and so did she. 1 month ago, the firm let her go. Quietly. With a severance package and a letter of recommendation that felt like a lie. 2 weeks ago, she stopped answering her phone. Stopped pretending there was a reason to wake up. Tonight, she'd driven to this bridge. The same bridge her husband had proposed to her on, 7 years ago. She'd stood in this exact spot and said yes. Now she stood here again. But this time, she wasn't saying yes. She was saying goodbye. Cars passed behind her. 50, maybe more. Not one slowed down. Some honked. Others swerved and kept going. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. Elizabeth wondered if she'd become invisible. Just another shadow on a bridge that had seen too many shadows before. She leaned forward slightly. Tested the weight of her body against the railing. It would be easy. One movement. 1 second. And then the voices would stop. The guilt would stop. The crushing, suffocating emptiness would finally stop. She closed her eyes. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The voice came from behind her. Low. Calm. Elizabeth froze. She turned slowly. A man stood about 10 feet away. Maybe 50, maybe older. His face was weathered. His beard was long and unkempt. His clothes were torn, layered, mismatched. A coat too big. Boots falling apart. He had a backpack slung over one shoulder and a sleeping bag tied to it with fraying rope. He was homeless. Elizabeth stared at him. Go away. The man didn't move. I will. In a minute. I don't need your help. I know. Then why are you here? The man looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were dark, tired, but they held something Elizabeth hadn't seen in anyone's eyes in months. Understanding. Because 10 years ago, the man said quietly, I stood on this bridge, right where you're standing, and I jumped. Elizabeth's breath caught. You're lying. No, the man said. I'm not. Then how are you here? Because someone pulled me out. The man stepped closer. A fisherman. He was down by the bank. Saw me fall. Dragged me out before I drowned. The man paused. I was unconscious for 2 days. Woke up in a hospital. And when I woke up, I wished I hadn't. Elizabeth turned away. I don't want to hear this. I know. But I'm going to tell you anyway. She didn't leave. So the man kept talking. My name is Dr. Thomas Reed. Or it used to be. I was a psychiatrist. I had a practice. Patients who trusted me. A wife I loved more than anything. His voice was steady, but something underneath it was broken. One night she called me. Said she was feeling bad. Really bad. Asked me to come home. I told her I couldn't. I had a patient in crisis. I said I'd be there in an hour. Thomas looked down at his hands. I got home 55 minutes later. She was in the bathtub. She'd taken pills. I called 911. Did CPR. Did everything I was trained to do. But it wasn't enough. She died in the ambulance. Elizabeth's grip on the railing loosened slightly. I was a psychiatrist, Thomas continued. I spent my entire career teaching people how to stay alive, and I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. He paused. So I blamed myself. Every day. Until I couldn't take it anymore. And I came here. To this bridge. And I jumped. Silence. Just the wind and the river and cars passing. Why are you telling me this? Elizabeth asked. Because someone needs to. You don't even know me. I don't have to. Thomas stepped closer. I know what you're feeling. I know you think it won't get better. That the pain is too much. That everyone would be better off without you. I know because I felt all of that. And I was wrong. Elizabeth turned to face him. Her eyes were wet. You don't know anything about me. Then tell me. Why? So you can fix me. No, Thomas said. So you can hear yourself say it out loud. Because sometimes that's the only thing that helps. Elizabeth stared at him. Then, slowly, she spoke. My husband died 3 months ago. I lost my job. I lost my career. I lost everything I worked for. Her voice cracked. And the worst part is, I don't even care. I just want it to stop. What do you want to stop? The guilt. The failure. The feeling that I'm not enough. Thomas nodded. I understand. No, you don't. You're right, Thomas said. I don't know your exact pain. But I know what it feels like to stand where you're standing. And I know that if you jump, you won't be ending the pain. You'll just be passing it on to everyone who's left behind. Elizabeth's face crumpled. There's no one left. There's always someone. You don't know that. Then prove me wrong. Tell me there's not one person in this world who would miss you if you were gone. Elizabeth opened her mouth. But she couldn't answer. Because there was someone. Her sister. They hadn't spoken in 6 months. But her sister had called. Twice. Left voicemails. Elizabeth hadn't called back. See? Thomas said gently. There's someone. Elizabeth's legs buckled. She sank to the ground, her back against the railing. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Not quietly. She sobbed the way people do when they've been holding it in too long. Thomas sat beside her. Not too close. Just close enough that she knew she wasn't alone. They sat like that for a long time. The wind blew. Cars passed. The river kept moving. And slowly, Elizabeth's breathing steadied. What happened to you? She asked finally. After the bridge. Thomas looked at the city lights. I spent months in the hospital. Then I tried to go back to work. But I couldn't. Every time I saw a patient, I saw my wife. Every time someone talked about wanting to die, I froze. So what did you do? I gave up my license, sold my house, and I left. Thomas paused. I've been on the streets for 8 years now. Some nights I sleep under this bridge. It reminds me of what I almost did, and why I didn't. Elizabeth looked at him. Do you regret it? Being saved? Thomas thought about it. Some days, yes. Most days, no. Because even though my life isn't what it was, it's still a life. And there are still moments that matter. Small things. A sunrise. A conversation with a stranger. He looked at her. Like tonight. Elizabeth wiped her face. I don't know if I can do this. You don't have to know. You just have to try. And if I fail, then you try again. She looked at him. This homeless man who'd lost everything, who'd stood where she was standing and chosen to live. Not because life got easier, but because he decided it was worth trying. Will you stay? Elizabeth asked quietly. Just for a little while? As long as you need, Thomas said. They sat on the bridge for 3 hours. They talked about loss, about guilt, about the impossible weight of trying to keep going when everything inside you wants to stop. Thomas didn't offer solutions. He didn't tell her it would be okay. He just listened. And that was enough. When the sun started to rise, Elizabeth stood up. Her legs were stiff. Her eyes were swollen. But she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not hope, exactly, but the possibility of hope. Thank you, she said. Thomas nodded. Will you be okay? I don't know. But I'm going to try. She walked to her car, got in, sat there with her hands on the steering wheel. Then she pulled out her phone and called her sister. It rang twice. Liz, is that you? Elizabeth's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm okay, I think. I needed to hear your voice. Her sister's voice softened. I've been so worried. Where have you been? I'll explain everything. Can I come over? Of course. Please. Come now. Elizabeth hung up. She looked in the rearview mirror and saw the bridge behind her. Thomas stood at the edge, watching to make sure she left, making sure she was safe. She drove away. 2 years passed. Elizabeth rebuilt her life. Not the same life. A different one. She didn't go back to corporate law. Instead, she started working with a non-profit that provided legal aid to people who couldn't afford it. The pay was terrible. The hours were long. But for the first time in years, she felt like her work mattered. She thought about Thomas often, wondered if he was still under the bridge, wondered if he was okay. She tried to find him once, drove back to the bridge and walked down to the riverbank. But he wasn't there. She asked around at shelters. No one had seen him. She'd almost given up when she got a call from a hospital. Ms. Hart, this is St. Mary's Hospital. We have a patient here who asked us to contact you. His name is Thomas Reed. Elizabeth's heart stopped. Is he okay? He's stable. But he'd like to see you. She drove to the hospital immediately. Thomas was in a small room on the 4th floor. He looked older, thinner, but his eyes were the same. Calm. Understanding. You came, he said. Of course I came. Elizabeth sat beside his bed. What happened? Pneumonia. I'll be fine. They're releasing me tomorrow. Where will you go? Thomas shrugged. Back to the streets, I suppose. Elizabeth shook her head. No, you're not. Excuse me. I've been looking for you for 2 years. You saved my life. Now let me help save yours. Thomas smiled. A real smile. I don't need saving. Maybe not. But you need a place to stay. And I happen to have a guest room. He looked at her. You don't have to do this. I know. But I want to. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. Elizabeth helped him get back on his feet, got him into housing, helped him apply for benefits, connected him with therapists. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. Days when Thomas didn't want to leave his room. Days when the guilt came back. But Elizabeth was there, the same way he'd been there for her. One day, 6 months later, Thomas told her something he'd never told anyone. That night on the bridge, he said, when I saw you, I wasn't just walking by. I was going to jump again. Elizabeth stared at him. What? I'd been thinking about it for weeks. I was tired. So tired. And that night, I'd decided. I was going to do it. He looked at her. But then I saw you. And I realized something. I couldn't save my wife. But maybe I could save you. And if I did, maybe that would be enough. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. You saved both of us. Thomas smiled. Maybe we saved each other. 2 broken people. 1 bridge. 1 conversation. And a choice to keep living. Elizabeth never went back to that bridge. She didn't need to. Because she'd found something stronger than despair. She'd found connection. She'd found purpose. She'd found someone who understood. And Thomas, the man who'd lost everything, found something too. He found a reason to stay. Not because life became easy, but because someone needed him. And that was enough. Because sometimes the people we save are the ones who save us back. And sometimes the darkest moments are the ones that lead us to the light. Did this story remind you of something? Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and how old are you? Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next story.